quick answer after they had fallen behind early in the second quarter, 14-10. The bubble screen to Terry, took it 58 yards. They took the lead 17-14, and they never gave up the lead. 31 points in the first half on the road in a divisional playoff game in the most hostile of environments. That game, that night in Detroit, that to me was the number one most memorable moment for me of the 2024 season. What was yours? 301-230-0980. I take notes for these games, and then I use those notes to do the show after the games, the Monday show after a Sunday game. This was a Saturday night game, and I'm just looking through my notes right now after the game, and I just wrote down, emotionally, a place I haven't been in 33 years. And that was how I felt in that moment. Like that was the closest to feeling like I had years before, to be on that stage and to see that team, our team, no matter how different it looks and the name, et cetera, that's still bothersome. I'm not, I'll never get off that. But to see it, our football franchise repped in that particular situation, it was what Gibbs's teams used to do. They used to go on the road and wreck Chicago, at Soldier Field, back-to-back years, in 86 and 87. Winning road playoff games in Philadelphia, Minnesota, that Joe did. The near playoff wins a couple of times in San Francisco, including Joe Gibbs's final game in January of 93 as the defending champions. That playoff game at Candlestick, it actually, believe it or not, was on TV recently. It was on the NFL Network, I think. And that year was, I think it was a Steve Young thing. And Steve Young had a great year that year. And remember, they lost to the Cowboys the following week. That was the first Super Bowl for Jimmy. They went on, 2 weeks later to crush Buffalo in the Super Bowl in Pasadena. But yeah, that Detroit game, I here it is. I said, I can't get over how good Jaden Daniels is and how unbelievably how good he was in the biggest game of his rookie season. Just on the road, I wrote, he dominated, threw for 242 yards in the first half on the way to 31, 28 in the second quarter. The team had 271 yards of offense in the first half. They didn't punt. And the only time they got stopped, remember, was early in the game when they took the ball out of his hands and gave it to Marcus Mariota on a 4th and short. Remember that disaster? Wow, was he good in that game. 22 of 31 for 299, not exactly 300. His QBR was 91.8. Unstoppable. They rushed for 182 yards in that game. Brian Robinson Jr. had by far and away the best game he had in weeks. Remember, they weren't getting anything from running backs down the stretch. And he went for 77 yards on 15 carries, 5.1 yards per carry. The most in terms of average yards per carry since he had broken out, early in the game against the Titans when they blew out the Titans in early December. The win over Detroit, 45-31, to advance to the NFC Championship game was my number one moment of 2024. What was yours? Chris, did you have one? Chris is in
I do.
for Max.
I do have one, actually. I think, to me, the moment that was actually the most exciting was when they beat Philly. The Philly win was really exciting for me. I was at one of the bars we were doing the game shows from with Linnell and Denton, and that place was full of Philly fans. It was just Eagles screaming everywhere the whole time. And when they came back, and in that fourth quarter, just watching all their jaws drop, that was phenomenal. That was just awesome to see that.
Yeah. That was so incredible. And by the way, it seemed improbable for a lot of it. And a lot of things had to go their way. We know a lot of things went their way all year long. The ball bounced in their direction all season long. Devontae Smith dropping the 3rd and 5 from Pickett was the play of the game because the game is over if he catches that. It's right in his hands. He's wide open. New Orleans had a 2-point conversion attempt that was catchable. We know the moments during the course of the year. And, by the way, that's not something that regresses to any sort of mean, you mathematicians out there, okay? That's not what happens in standalone events, in independent events. So it, of course, could happen again. And one of the reasons it could happen again is they've got a quarterback that makes it happen all the time. Patrick Mahomes' magic hasn't regressed to the mean at any point. Here were a couple of other quick notes that, I wrote down. Every week, I say, is it too early to call him elite? Is it too early to say that he's one of the top 5 QBs in the game? Is it too early to put him in the Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Burrow class? Is it too early to say he just had the greatest rookie season in NFL history? Well, that was sewn up at that point. And then to talk about 2 road playoff wins. All right. He became just the 4th rookie quarterback in NFL history to win multiple playoff games, but only the 2nd to win 2 road playoff games. And then he became the 6th rookie quarterback to make it to a championship game, but the only quarterback out of the 6 to be the primary reason that they made it to the championship game. Remember Flacco, Sanchez, Purdy, Sean King, and Roethlisberger were the other 5 as rookies that made it to their conference championship games. But they had done it on the strength of defensive football primarily, or running game, not relying on the quarterback. Flacco, when he did it, that wasn't his Super Bowl run. His rookie year, he was fine. Sanchez really relied on defense. Purdy really relied on running game and defense. Roethlisberger, Sean King's Tampa team, all about running game with work done and defense. But no one had done it the way he did it. I mean, they climbed aboard number 5, and he took them to the NFC Championship game. It was the moment for me. What about you? 301-230-0980. What was your number 1 most memorable moment, most memorable game of 2024? Let's start with Eric in Norfolk. Eric, go ahead. Eric, you there? Gotcha.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I got you now, Eric. Yep.
All right. Yeah. So for me, it was the Bears game. Not to mention the arrogance of the corner that kind of sealed their fate. There was a lot of arrogance from Bears fans going into the game. There was a lot of like Caleb versus Jaden, number 1 versus number 2 overall kind of debates. And I was watching that game at a bar with a Bears fan, and I pretty much erupted out of my seat like it was an ejector seat, and the entire place was going nuts. But, Kevin, I wanted to also touch on one thing that you were mentioning earlier about some of the losses and, the passion and everything. And that was one of the things that I felt last year. The wins were fantastic, that game in particular that I mentioned, but the way that I felt after some of those losses last year, that loss to Dallas, the loss to Pittsburgh, I remember those games really sticking with me back when my passion was at its highest. And that came back last year.
Look, there's no doubt that the most memorable play of the season was the Hail Mary, but that game was not their best. It was an odd game. They had, remember to Hail Mary to get to an 18-15 final, they had 12 points. They had not scored a touchdown. They moved the football in that game. I remember that. I don't remember the Chicago fans' arrogance. I will say that. I do know this about that game for Chicago. That ruined their season. Because weren't they, and I'm looking
they went downhill after that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Didn't they have a winning record going into the game? Yeah, they were 4-2 and had won 3 straight games, including a game in London where they had smacked Jacksonville. Now, the wins were against the Rams. Okay, that's a good one. But the Rams were hurting early in the season. Carolina and Jacksonville. Yes, that ruined their season. They went from after that loss, they that was the first of 10 straight losses for them. You know, a lot of the losses were close, like the Washington game was. Thanks, Eric. Really appreciate
Absolutely,
it.
man.
Let's
Talk
go
to
to
you soon.
Lap. Lap, your number one most memorable moment of the 2024 season was what? Lap? Let's go to Jalen. Come on, Lap. Jalen, go ahead. Number one moment for you in 2024 was what?
Good morning, Kevin. The number one moment for me is definitely the Detroit game. And I was able to attend this game in person. It's the very first playoff game that I've ever experienced. And as a young fan, lifelong fan, diehard fan, I had dreamt of always being able to not only go to a playoff game, but to see, our team win. And as you mentioned, the hostile environment, playing the number one seed on the road, and the stakes that were there. And I remember, going into halftime and seeing that 10-point lead, but I was confident at that point. I knew that we had a grasp on that game because of how well Jaden and the offense was playing. And I remember the end of the game and just looking at the scoreboard and just saying, wow, we are actually one game away from the Super Bowl. It was the greatest feeling I had ever had as a young fan. Now, mind you, being born in 97, this is like the greatest season I've ever seen, period. And just that feeling, like I had never imagined having that moment, right then and there. And it was just a surreal feeling. And yeah, man, it's definitely something that I feel like we're going to experience a lot more of, especially due to the quarterback that we have. So thank you for taking my call, Kevin.
Yeah, sure.
Hail to the Burgundy and Gold.
You know, Jalen, I'm looking through my notes and I wrote down, for young people, this will be, along with last week, meaning the win over Tampa, these will be indelible memories. You'll be twice the age you are now. You're born in 97, you're 28. You'll be 55, 56 years old, and you will never forget the win in Tampa and the win in Detroit.